Fellow South Africans, please step forward. Let's have a family conversation quickly. So I've been seeing a lot of posts made by Black South Africans, and I'm just going to be quite particular in terms of race, but this conversation is inclusive of all demographics in South Africa, but I'm just going to be particular with this one. I've been seeing a lot of posts made by Black South Africans endorsing Peter Groenewald, the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, as the next candidate to run for presidency in South Africa. So these are people who are basically saying, listen, we see Ramaphosa and his ANC, but we believe the Freedom Front Plus is going to be the next political party, regardless of how many seats they occupy, by the way, in parliament, regardless of whether they make 2/3 majority. But the fact that we looked at Peter Groenewald and we said, that's the guy. So I'm going to try to be as apolitical about this as possible, as much as possible. I'll try to be as objective, but at the same time, I know I might miss the plot here and there. But this is what's actually concerning me. The people who are pushing this narrative are the very same people who probably don't have any in-depth understanding of how governance works in our country, who do not understand the expressions of freedom that are made in the very constitution that governs them in South Africa today. But let's put that aside. That's a different conversation we had yesterday about, the Constitution, Chapter 9, Institutions and Defense of Democracy in our country. What actually concerns me here is these are people who have actually not even done research on Peter Groenewald. Not him as an individual, but his political party, because our election model in South Africa is party listing. It's not candidate based, right? So it means the majority party, any party that's going to contest the elections is going to go on conference, and then they're going to nominate an individual who's going to be the face of those elections. And then, in this case, it's going to be Peter Groenewald, because it stands for the Freedom Front Plus. He's the leader. So to all of you who are endorsing Peter, have you taken time just to do a bit of research? I understand some of you maybe were quite young, especially during the EFF, when the emergence of the EFF back in 2014. They won the elections. That's when they became the third biggest political party in South Africa. To perhaps just read the manifesto of the Freedom Front Plus, number one. Number two, have you taken time just to check? Because Peter van der, that's why I'm calling van der Groenewald. Peter Groenewald has been very vocal on a number of occasions that he represents, and his party, minorities in South Africa. And you, my dear friend, as a black person like me, you don't form minorities in South Africa. You are part of the majorities. That is us black people, right? So there have been a number of occasions where he has been quite expressive that he is not for social and economic inclusivity. He has spoken loudly about affirmative action being anti-rate, BEE policies and all of that. But then also, I remember one time he stormed out of parliament when there was this entire conversation about expropriation of land without compensation. And he said, in his words, should that happen, that land is expropriated without compensation, there's going to be a civil war in our country. And you, my dear friend, you're on the other side of the conversation as a black person. But then not only that, Peter has been quite defensive, in this entire conversation about Orania. He has been quite vocal about the protection and the preservation of Afrikaner history, regardless of the many layers of the conversation, especially involving you as a black person in our country. Now, again, I said I'm going to try to be as apolitical as possible and try to center this conversation on freedom, the freedom to vote, which you have. All those are expressed in the Freedom Charter. All those, are enshrined in the Constitution, that you've got a right to nominate a party of your choice and to vote for whoever you want to vote for. But lest we forget history, Peter and his party are very clear in their manifesto. And for those of you who have not taken time to go and read the manifesto of the Freedom Front Plus, please go read that manifesto. And then sit back, have your tea and biscuits, and ask yourself, as a person of color, does this party represent me? Is Peter really going to get here and whoop out his magic wand and Adakadabra, everything is well and good in South Africa? Again, I'm not trying to direct which political party you can vote for. We've got a number of political parties in South Africa, opposition parties more especially. You've got the DA, which is the biggest opposition party. You've got, after that, the EFF. You've got your MK. And then you've got these small opposition parties, and that's where you're going to find your IFP. You are going to find your FF Plus, Peters, and then you're going to find your action essay, right? And many others. So you, as a person, knowing very well, living post 1994, knowing very well what apartheid did in our country, you sat back with your frustrations of the current administration, and I know your frustrations are very valid. You sat back and you thought, we need a white savior. That's what we need. We need an Afrikaner savior who, by profile and other means, represents the very same thing that oppressed us pre-1994. I'm actually concerned by this mentality amongst us as black people that we are waiting for a savior. And in our times of calamity and political tension and where we feel the current administration is not doing well, we resort and we say, bring back the perpetrator, take us back to Pharaoh, take us back to Egypt. And then maybe it was better there and not here. And I mean, this supports P.W. Botha's sentiments back in the 80s where he said, we as black people were psychologically, mentally incapable of ruling ourselves, of governing ourselves. We must be given guns because when you give them guns, they shoot and kill each other. How on earth in 2026 are we having this conversation where you are very clear? And this romanticizing apartheid is what actually sickens me as well, because it means you don't actually understand how deep apartheid is, how today we're embedded in trauma because of that very same system that we worked so hard, by the way, to be liberated from. We can talk about economic freedom and all of that and who the owners of production, owners of the owns of product, means of production are. But this one of you endorsing, a man was very clear that I'm not for you. I'm for the very same people who, Mara black South Africans, will really need to do better, hey? It's okay, we can be frustrated. Let's be frustrated by joblessness. Let's be frustrated by, a limping economy. Let's be frustrated by crime, levels of crime in our country. Let's be frustrated by illegal immigrants, and all sorts of things, all sorts of errors in our democracy. But really? Really? You think it will take just one Afrikaner man to sort out the mess we have in South Africa today? Corruption will be sorted out by him? Because you are so biased and you are so white-centered that you would rather sacrifice all that we've worked hard for just so you have a white savior. Maqabane, do better.
I also believe. MK says the term illegal foreigners is inhumane. And it fuels xenophobia, and it strips people their dignity, and it's against the Constitution. Haibo. I'm actually going to shoot a YouTube video so that I can tell you the background story, like where this comes from. Yeah. But there was a post that was done by something, Kasi TV or something, where they said something about the MK voting with the EFF, the DA. I'll tell you about it on my full video. So MK released a statement trying to say, no, that is a lie. So hence they ended up having to talk about foreigners and what. And I've said this before. I've said, you don't know the MK stance on illegal foreigners or foreigners. You don't know their stance. Because they never speak about it. And the people on the ground, you'd find they are doing whatever that they want to do, but you've never heard the leadership resist. You don't know what they are saying, what they think. Some of the MK members, you hear them say, hey, I'm not involved in that thing. Aha. So I'm going to read just a little bit of the statement. I am going to read the whole thing on my YouTube channel. But let me just read here, just the last paragraph. Here, Betunan. Hey. I want bazizawuthini commanders. Kuko aba bakalakho phofu. Bazawuthini aba bakalakho. Let's read here the last paragraph. Okay, I want to read the part where I circled. So it says here, okay, I want to start here. Just the where it says the MK party rejected the bill because it continues to use the dehumanizing term illegal foreigner. So they are saying the term is dehumanizing, a phrase that fuels xenophobia, strips people of dignity, and contradicts the Constitution's commitment to human worth. Language is policy, and the language is dangerous. Hey! But the term illegal foreigners, language is dangerous. What? Okay, let me just read another page quickly. Like, now when I read this, I was shocked. So it continues to say the bill offers no humane or durable solution for the tasteless persons, condemning them to permanent legal limbo, unable to be deported, unable to regularize, and be subjected to recurring detention without resolution. This is not justice, it is abandonment. Most critically, the bill criminalizes desperation while ignoring the collapse of the Department of Home Affairs itself. Under the current so-called GNU arrangement and under the Minister Leon Schreiber, Home Affairs remains a site of systemic failure characterized by corruption. ETMK, these people are they keep they are stuck in legal limbo. They are not deported, they are not regularized, they are subjected to recurring detention without resolution, which is exactly what we said as well. Like they just keep on getting detention or getting arrested with no solution. With no solution. But that is not the fault of the people. That is the fault of Home Affairs. Hey! Yo! Now I understand why abantu abadala they used to say when you say something, but you say mncinci. Like it's crazy. Like uthiwa usemncinci babenyanisile uzobe usemncinci ngani. Hayi bethuna hayi.